Hello, OWL members. I am thrilled to announce this month's Inside the OWL Studio will feature EyePoint Pharmaceuticals. EyePoint is committed to developing and commercializing innovative therapeutics to help improve the lives of patients with serious eye disorders. EyePoint has been a great supporter of OWL's mission and vision, particularly with event sponsorships, and we are so grateful to have them as a uniting sponsor this year. Without further delay, I would like to introduce today's interviewee, Nancy Lurker, Executive Vice Chair and Board Director at EyePoint. Welcome to Inside the OWL Studio, Nancy.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thanks for being here. And I would personally like to thank you for your continued support of the OWL organization and for joining us in Newport Beach last year as part of the faculty for our first ever Leadership Summit. It was amazing.
Which was fantastic, by the way. You put on a terrific program.
I think so too. Anyone watching, please sign up for this year's in Austin.
You won't regret it.
Yeah, no, you won't. As you know, the OWL organization continually strives to create networking and educational opportunities to support the mission of advancing diversity and leadership. We've found it hugely beneficial to hear from other organizations about their efforts around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to you to discuss this area at EyePoint and get some of your thoughts around the D&I area.
Well, first of all, it's part of our core values. And look, I want to stress how important it is that companies continue to strive to have a broadly diverse organization up and down, from the board of directors all the way down to the lab, because it's so critical that we are inclusive as a company and that we bring people in from different ethnicities, different races, different socioeconomic classes, different parts of the world, because you need to be able to get, and I know this sounds trite because everybody says it, but diversity of thought. And it's very easy. I think it's much less than it used to be, but it's very easy to get into this where you hire people that you're comfortable with. And frankly, people you know. Well, we all tend to circle ourselves with people who are like us. And so if you hire people who are like you, you're not going to get the diversity that you really need. And in some ways, I wish we could get away from this, from being at times contentious in our society, and one where more people realize it's to the benefit of all, that we really have a very broad thinking, broad-minded organization. And again, but it takes effort to make that happen. If you just say that's your goal and you don't do anything about it, then almost by nature, water flows where there's least resistance. And what will happen is you won't get the diversity inclusion that you want. So you have to put the extra effort out to encourage the hiring managers to look beyond their usual network. HR plays a key role, of course, in making sure that they're going out to parts of, in our case, just the United States, because we're not global, but to parts of, maybe it's college campuses where we normally wouldn't go, so that we can get that diversity brought in on our new hires. And then also, I'm a big believer as well, we need to also really focus in different socioeconomic areas. You'd be surprised how intimidating it is for people in lower socioeconomic groups, particularly coming into biotech or ophthalmology. It's very intimidating. And so they really need encouragement as well. And I don't care what your ethnicity, your race, it's socioeconomic as well. If you can bring people up who otherwise are going to be intimidated by this ecosystem and they have no idea how to break in, it can be incredibly eye-opening, because, and I don't mean that as a pun, because all of a sudden you're getting that viewpoint of, I can't get access to medications. I didn't understand that about how hard it is to bring a drug to market. Those are just some of the examples.
Yeah, and I think this is very timely too. I know I just talked about our leadership summit, but I think that's one area that OWL has really benefited our industry, in the sense of we create these educational opportunities and networking opportunities like the leadership summit. And I think it's so great for people that you are talking about here that might be intimidated, might not feel exactly at home yet in our industry, to be able to take advantage of some of these educational and networking opportunities, not only, for their careers, but also to, again, make friends, meet different people from different companies that might be in a different group than them in terms of, I'm not marketing, I'm finance, or, I'm
Yeah.
R&D. So I think, kind of putting that out there too, for OWL, for people listening, please, always utilize us for your employees, particularly around a leadership summit or some activity like that. Particularly if you have employees that might be struggling and maybe not feeling, that confident yet.
Great suggestion, Abigail. Very good suggestion. And I can't encourage people enough. The companies that are out there is to send people from all different levels in the organization,
Yep.
Including some of your newer employees who
Yes.
They may not have proven themselves yet. You may not even know if they're going to be a high talent. Doesn't matter. Give them that chance, because it really is eye-opening is the word I like to use, because when you go to this OWL Leadership Summit or any of the big OWL events, you
Yep.
really do start to see a much broader group of people than you're going to run into in just your company, and get exposed to different thoughts.
I agree. And so I'm not trying to get off, focusing on OWL, but I think going back to, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is an effort. Can you give us any specific activities that you're doing at EyePoint that, kind of shows that effort, or, something that you feel has worked there in the past in terms of really fostering, that diversity?
Yeah, there's a number of things that we do. And actually, I'm pretty proud of it, because we've really made a concerted effort. And I have to give a huge shout out to our HR department as well, because they're fantastic. So first of all, we've tapped into our minority employees to where is their network. So we use them to help us recruit other employees, other campuses to go to, other events that we normally wouldn't go to. So we've tapped into that, and they've been extremely helpful. The other thing that we've done is on our summer internship program, which has been very successful. We specifically try to ensure that we get a broad, diverse summer internship group. And that's been, and then almost all of them, not 100%, but some of them we try to hire, and we end up hiring as full-time employees once they graduate. So that's been very, very successful for us as well. The third thing is, look, we mentor our employees. I mean, I'll just tell you as an example. There was one, and that's why I touched on it. There was one intern that we brought in who came from a very low socioeconomic class. And, he struggled because he didn't know how, first of all, what is this ophthalmology ecosystem? What do they do? And it was like a whole new world for him. So we specifically signed him up with a mentor, so that he was meeting with somebody every morning to help him understand more. What's the company about? Who are we? Introduce him to people in the organization. And then we had events just for the interns to go out and do things together. So the goal there was to try to make sure that there was readily available people to help and events to go attend to. Because sometimes people come in from outside of Boston.
Right.
They don't live in the Boston area, so they don't know anybody either. So those are just some of the things. And then lastly, I will say this. It's more about building culture in the company. We do a lot of just fun company events. And I know a lot of companies do that. And I can't stress enough how important it is. I mean, it's everything from just a lobster bake on a Sunday, on a weeknight right after work, to taking a boat tour around the Boston Harbor, to we have a big Thanksgiving event where everybody brings in a local dish that they would have made.
Yeah.
I go on and on and on. We have these usually a minimum of once a month, sometimes twice a month. And it just helps build a sense of community and culture, and gives everyone a chance to get to know everyone.
I think that's great. And you are, I believe, the first person that's mentioned fun. And I love it. I think it's such an important component to keep that culture, to retain employees, and really, enjoy where they work, right? I mean, that at the end of the day, you spend most of your life wherever you work doing what you're doing. So that's really, really important. I love that, Nancy. So honestly, you're the first person that's mentioned that. So
Well,
kudos.
we talk, Abigail, we talk about it a lot. And I'm, 40 years in this business. As you said, you spend so much of your time at work. You need to make sure it is a fun place to come to, and that people enjoy it. Yes, we all work hard. We know that, but they're not mutually exclusive. You can still enjoy who you're working with, have a fun time,
Yeah.
and fun events while you're also getting a lot of heavy lifting done.
That's awesome. So I think on that note, on the fun note, we are going to move on to our questions that we always ask at the end of each interview. So I am going to start with, what is your favorite word in eye health?
Actually, it's ophthalmology. And the
Okay.
reason is because nobody can spell it correctly who's not part of the ophthalmology ecosystem. So I will admit I love correcting people because it is not intuitive how to spell it.
It really isn't. And I always find it fascinating, though, sometimes who cannot spell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. What is your least favorite word?
Oh, well, I have to say blindness. I mean, that's what we're here all about, is to prevent blindness, but blindness is terrible. It's terrible.
It is.
And I stress that all the time to our employees when I was CEO, because you take so much for granted until you don't have it. And, I believe if you ask most Americans, what's the one sense that they would not want to lose? I believe eyesight's number one.
It's got to be. I mean, definitely. So in this industry, what professional role would you like to attempt that you haven't already?
I would like to be a clinical trial monitor. I think that is a fascinating job. I think it's so vitally important. And I think going around and making sure that the trials are being run correctly, that you're getting the right patients in, managing the, no, it's a lot of travel. And so in that regard, I applaud people who do that role. It is not easy, but I think it's a very interesting role that is vitally important to making sure clinical trials stay on time and you get patients enrolled who are the types of patients you need for your study.
Agreed. And that kind of fits right into diversity, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah,
and having the best possible patient care for sure. What role in our industry would you not want to attempt, and why?
I would not want to be a retinal eye surgeon because I have such tremendous respect for the skills that they do. I think it is an art and a gift, and one that you have to be a special person to do that. And so I have tremendous respect, but I personally would not want to try that myself. I'd be too scared that I would do damage to somebody's eyes.
The retina specialists, they're amazing. I mean, they blow my mind sometimes. If you could do one thing to contribute to diverse leadership in our space, what would it be?
I would like to see, and we're getting there, I would like to see more women in ophthalmology leadership. And by the way, minorities as well. I shouldn't make it just about women. I'd like to see more diversity in ophthalmology leadership. And that's across as well in the medical societies. I can see the improvements since I've been in ophthalmology, which has now been about 7 years. I can see the improvements from when I first started. So I applaud the medical societies because I can see them making an effort, and we need to keep that up. It's so inspiring to people when you can see that diverse group of people on the stage, presenting papers, giving talks. Same thing in the companies, when you can see there's diversity in the leadership of the companies. That really motivates people who are diverse. And let's be candid. The majority of people, if you take the broad view of diversity, the majority of people are diverse. And so it's so critical that they say, okay, I can get there too. And that also makes them more comfortable to speak up, because if they don't see anybody who looks like them or reflects their background, they're not going to be as comfortable to speak up, and we need their voices.
Oh, that's great. I completely agree. You know, and yes, diversity, but I will put the plug in there for women. Myself, particularly in our industry. You are an outlier, Nancy, you know.
No, I'm aware of that. I know
Yeah.
that. And I would like nothing better than to see more women and diverse CEOs.
Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
hopefully over time we'll get there, but it
Yeah.
also takes mentoring on the part of leadership of companies. It takes mentoring.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Okay, so here is my surprise question for you. If you were a beverage, what would you be?
Oh, you gave me an easy one. I would be a martini.
Ah, why?
I think they look beautiful. I think they're elegant. They make people feel good.
Yes, they do. Would you have olives in there?
I would put an olive in. I think they add that little extra chicness to them.
There we go. There we go. I love it. I love it. And
It's
I
like
love
a pair of shoes on a woman. A good
Oh,
pair of
but
shoes.
let's refine this a little more. Would you be vodka or gin?
Oh, definitely vodka. I like vodka.
All right. Well, that does it for Inside the Owl Studio this week. Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abigail. Thank you for everything you do and Owl. You know,
Yeah, you're welcome. And
organization.
thank you. Thank you. Well, have a good rest of your week.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.